and they don't have easy access to capital. Your firm was investing in growth capital, in venture capital, SOE was, wow. But we thought that was the part of Chinese economy that's the largest base, and if you don't move that, you don't move the rest of the economy. So it's an opportunity to do value-adding service, as we put it. Originally, we do buyout type, and SOE actually learned, and we do the next level, which is more mixed ownership. Because the idea of private equity owning a company is the mean, not the end. The end is to make the company more competitive. So today we're at SOE restructuring 3.0, where we actually sometimes will sell back some of the share that we own to large SOE because they've gotten to the point where there are other resources to bear. But under the same understanding of market-driven governance and the specialized team and compete. And that's the ever-evolving. Just to show that point Mr. Fang just raised, when I talked to my LP 15 years ago, they were saying, oh, it's great. But aren't you working in a way where every time you privatize an SOE, you have a lesson opportunity, and soon they'll all be gone, you'll be dead. I said, no, that's just not true. First of all, it's not about privatization. It's about, I created a word called marketization. You really wanted to grow the business by having the right governance. The other thing is that Chinese companies or economy, it's going to be following the Chinese social development. We always knew there's always going to be a great set of SOEs. But the purpose is not to get rid of them. The purpose is that they're competitive. Today, that's exactly how it goes.
By the way, John, how do you evaluate the corporate governance in the SOE in China?
Well, many dimensions. First of all, it's about decision making. The company needs to have a purpose of working towards the benefit of shareholders, maximize value. Before, that's not separated from government agenda. So you put a board. The company is going to be working towards the benefit of the shareholders. Secondly, you wanted to have alignment of interest between managers and shareholders and the stakeholders of other type. So it's all the routine things, but you just do it, and that's how it happens.
And it's doable, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
It is.
So you think the corporate governance in the SOE is okay, satisfactory?
Yeah, again, it goes rounds and rounds.
Okay.
Before the government wanted to do this quicker, and now there are some other, elements that we have to consider.
Yeah. I think that is now time for us to open the floor for invite our audience also join the discussion. And please raise your hand if you have a question or comments, and please identify who you are, and please join us. Hu Zong, I think you are the right person to join the discussion.
Sorry, just a guy.
But I have a question for you. Do you think Huawei future will be hampered by the policies from the different countries, especially in the United States?
This is really no surprise to me. Yeah, sorry, because I was not here for the previous part of the session. Yeah, but if you talk.
But it's a new topic. It's a really new topic.
Yeah, but to share some of my humble opinions on what has happened, not just specifically on my company, but generally in the market. So some points. Firstly, I would say we've seen a lot of changes in the market, right?
Changes.
And we've seen actually there has been some negative impact from the trade war to the economy. And we are at the technology industry, And probably because we highly rely on the global supply chain, global ecosystem for innovation. So probably, we were suffering the most right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you put that into the big context of the restructuring of the economy, the redefining of the globalization, I would say that, yeah, this is just like a event. Yeah, this is just like the weather. Yeah, so for the change of the weather, we probably could be, in the approach, like more reactive. But if you look at the globalization, if you talk about the, digital transformation or the restructuring of the economy, I would say that's the concept of the climate change. So I think for the change of the weather and the change of the climate, we should take totally different approach. For the change of the weather, we can be reactive. However, for the change of the climate, we should be more proactive to get involved, to join the discussion, and to share our opinions to all the stakeholders. Yeah, that's just some humble opinions.
Thank you so much for the great input. Anyone else? Question or comments? So back to all the panelists, just from the view from the Ken, and also related to Huawei. And now, because the United States are taking a stance that they just cut the technology links between China and the United States, at least in the military front and also in some other sensitive parts. But as maybe leave the bigger parts also have the real connection. So along this road, how do you see the trends between China and the United States in terms of the technology competition? Do you think that it could be just decoupled completely, or it has to be weaved together in the short run, in the medium run, also in the long run, in terms of technology?
One really has to wonder that in the current environment, when U.S. and China are producing and exporting very different things, that there are a huge amount of synergies to be, benefited from by trading, that when Apple's, they use low-cost supply in China and their profits are going because of their innovation capacities, that there's so much synergy. And then China and U.S. are still fighting over trade. It's not the trade patterns between, let's say, UK and US, in which case there will be more competition. There is no real head-on competition. However, when it comes to technology, that is a completely different issue, especially when we think about artificial intelligence, where there are sectors where there could be first-mover advantages, where clearly pooling together bigger data and bigger markets might be beneficial. This is a real potential for head-on-head competition. Now, I wonder whether to, we should envision a world that's divided into two. One part of the world is using the technological infrastructure and technological IT system of China, and the other part of the world is using a completely different IT system and technological infrastructure of America. That clearly has huge efficiency losses, but in this case, there is actual real competition as opposed to what we're experiencing today in terms of trade.
Right, but I think it's important to just be clear that the political circumstance in the United States is unified on this topic.
Yeah.
And it is unified on this topic that if there is not some sort of an agreement to really closely pay attention to technological advancement, whether it is from the United States standpoint, state-supported, or if it is protected in some way. The United States it's not Republicans versus Democrats. The United States is absolutely unified, and policies will be enacted in order to put even higher protective mechanisms around technology issues in the United States. And we just went through a whole reform on all of our CFIUS legislation, Indeed. Which really does govern the transfer of technology. And what landed was more protective. And if we don't begin to see progress, which is why I think Tim and I continue to be hopeful that there's an agreement, because on most of these topics, it is not Republicans versus Democrats when it comes to the technology issues. There is a very, very clear, unified view for that.
Yeah, which is pretty concerning, and I also think it's one of those things. It's not all facts-based because it involves a lot of projection based on what you see, and what that unification has assumed is that a country like China, while it's rising economic power, is really run by the government in every aspect, including the so famous China 2025. The irony is that if you go to China and talk to investors, business owners, even large companies, CEO, they sort of saw that as one of the think tanks throughout the blueprints, like many. But then in Washington, somehow it got to be the part of this is what China will do. So I think, I saw more misunderstanding based on the old way of thinking.
Yes.
The old way of thinking, U.S. was thinking, let's embrace China, WTO. China, as it develops, will be more and more like us, culturally, socially, maybe even politically, which, was a sort of large assumption then.
Yes.
China, on the other hand, was benefiting from global trade, seeing, their lives being better. For the first time, they gained financial sort of power, and thinking about now we get to be respected. I don't see a lot of Chinese thinking about being a world power. They didn't know what that was.